I'm going to share with you 10 items to review before you buy your first ball python. Stick around to the end, and I'm going to tell you the one thing that most people don't think about that could negatively affect their lives. Even I didn't think about it. Let's get started. First on the list is, have you checked with your parents or your landlord? Most people, when they hear the word python, they think of a 30-foot python that can eat them. Even if you tell them that it's a ball python and it's small, chances are they're going to say no. People are generally, for the most part, afraid of snakes or either don't like snakes or don't want to be around them. So it's a good idea to check with your parents or your landlord, make sure that they're okay with it. Second on the list is, do you have time to take care of it? Are you willing to spend a couple times per week to spray the cages and make sure the humidity's at where it's supposed to be? Usually 55% humidity is about the right. I usually just go for whatever looks like there's mist inside of the enclosure, and you need to check water and also remove waste. Third on the list is, what size ball python are you planning on getting? Are you going to get a hatchling? Are you going to get a big ball python? If you get a hatchling, then you're going to need to be prepared to spend more money, because when it's a hatchling, it's going to grow. And for each size of the ball python, as it grows, it's going to need to be able to fit the hide box and the enclosure. You don't want the enclosure to be too big or too small for the animal, or the hide box. The hide box is too big or too small. Generally, they'll go off food. Ball pythons are pretty picky animals. Also, the water bowl, as it gets bigger, it's going to be able to knock over the water bowl. So you want to make sure that you have the right size water bowl. Fourth on the list is, are you going to feed them frozen thawed rodents or live rodents? Live rodents are going to be more expensive. For instance, adult mice are going to cost around $3 a piece, and then adult rats are going to be upwards to $10 a piece. Also, some pet stores do not provide feeder animals. They're going to ask you, hey, is this for feeding? And if you come there every week, they're going to know, even if you tell them that it's not for feeding, they're going to know you that you're feeding them to some type of animal. On top of that, if you live in a small town, maybe the pet store that you have won't have enough rodents for you to feed your pet every week. Maybe they run out. Are you going to have a second choice? If you're going to go with frozen thawed, are your roommates going to be okay with having frozen rodents in the same freezer with their food? I would think that most people are probably a little bit weirded out by that. Also, if you're going to do frozen thawed, do you have the stomach to actually unthaw the rodent and feed it? Some people, they don't have the stomach to mess with dead animals. These are things to think about before you get your animal. Fifth on the list is, have you researched and purchased the right enclosure for your ball python? Is it big enough? Will the ball python be able to escape? If you have other pets, are they going to be able to get into the cage and hurt the animal? Number 6 on the list is, what will you do if your ball python gets sick? When I first had a ball python that got sick, thankfully I had an incubator on hand, and when you have an incubator, then you can put the snake in the incubator and set it to 85 degrees or more, maybe 87. By having the snake in the high temperature, it'll help slow down the infection. Not only that, but you want to make sure that you find the right vet. Have you called around and asked vets if they've even had experience with exotic animals? You also want to ask them how much they charge just to get that first prescription for the snake. What if the snake's still sick after that? The first time I brought my ball python in, the first medication that I bought him, it didn't work, and I had to go back in and get a different one. And so the cost for that can rack up to a couple $100 very easily. But not only that, maybe the medication they give you won't work. You have to research other things. Like, first time I had my snake that got sick, I had to put it in a humidity box. I had to buy a humidifier that would fit inside a plastic enclosure where the snake could breathe in diluted F1, and that was able to get rid of it. So the trip to the vet didn't actually work. So that costs even more money to buy the humidifier, buy the F1. Number 7 on the list is, what will you do if your ball python won't eat? Are you prepared to assist feed your ball python? Do you even know how? Or do you even want to try to assist feed? So trying to feed an animal that doesn't want to eat can be kind of tricky, and if you don't know how to do it, it can be overwhelming. Number 8 on the list is, do you have the appropriate room temperature? The ambient heat in the room needs to be around 75 degrees year round. In my snake room, I have a space heater. I have that on all winter long. Maybe you don't have a separate room. Maybe you live in an apartment and you don't have an extra room to put the snake in. Maybe you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend and they don't want to have the room really hot, and so you have your snake cage in the bedroom and you put that space heater in there and the room gets too hot. Maybe they don't want to deal with that. Also, in the summertime, most people want to have the AC running. So if you have the AC running and you live in an apartment in your bedroom, the room's going to be too cold for your ball python. Not only that, maybe your parents don't want to spend that extra energy cost. I know my parents, when I was a kid, during the summertime, they would not let me have the AC on right away. They would make me put up my windows in my room and try to bring in the air from outside to make it cooler. So those are things that you want to make sure you're prepared for. Are you planning on breeding ball pythons? If so, have you researched the morphs yet? I think the most common mistake people go out and they just say, oh, I like that more, it looks cool, I'm gonna buy that one. Or maybe they get a couple jeans in there and they think it looks cool. Well, without doing the research, you're gonna set yourself up for failure, because some jeans don't go good with other jeans, they don't mix well. Some jeans are much more overpowering than other jeans. There's hundreds of morphs out there, and it's really important to know what morphs go well together, which ones sell for the best price. If you're wanting to make it a profitable business, it's a good thing to start buying female ball pythons. Females take a little bit longer to mature before they can breed. If you're buying adult females, those are harder to come by compared to males. The male can be paired with multiple females, so you can have 10 females and you can pair one male each week, and they only have to be paired once or twice and they can have eggs. Also, you want to make sure that you have an incubator, your snake racks already bought. That way, when you want to purchase new ball pythons, you already have their enclosures in the snake rack ready to go. You don't have to scramble to try and buy an enclosure once you've bought that snake. That way you don't stress it out and try to change its cage or put it in a temporary cage or any of that sort of thing, especially with hatchlings. But you want to make sure you have the incubator ready to go, so that way when the eggs are laid, you can put them in the incubator. Also, you're probably going to want to have your own rodent breeding operation. If not, then you're going to have to go and buy rodents quite often, and that can get really expensive. And we're on the last tip. Are you in the dating scene and you're single and you're wanting to meet somebody? Most people don't like snakes. So if you want to date a girl and she finds out that you have a snake, she may not even talk to you anymore. I personally have had that happen to me plenty of times. I've had women that will not even come over to my house because I have snakes. So it's really important to think about that, and just to know yourself. Is it something that you're passionate about? Me, I'm not getting rid of my snakes for any woman. And so that's up to you. You have to figure it out. You have to really think about it and think, am I really passionate about snakes enough to where I'm willing to not be able to go out with the girl that I was interested in because she doesn't want to date someone that likes snakes? Thanks for watching.